Before we jump in, I just want to give a quick shout out and a thank you to our friends over at MarketMuse. Their support helps us keep this Slack community free for everybody, which is awesome. They make a really amazing tool that wraps keyword research and content optimization all into one easy workflow. In these videos, you'll get to see the product in action, but some things we'll talk about: getting quick wins off the board. We'll talk about the keyword research heat map, which I loved. We'll talk about using AI to help write first drafts. We'll talk about a couple other things. Encourage you to dive in, encourage you to check out the product too. They've been kind enough to offer our subscribers and members 20% off their plans. So when you check out, just use the code SUPERPATH20 and you'll get that 20% off. There'll be a link to the site, and of course we'll put the code underneath the video. But go check it out. MarketMuse, thanks again for your support. We really appreciate it. I will get out of the way now. Enjoy this video, and thanks so much. Take care. Cool. Hey everybody, Jimmy from Superpath here. Very excited to be with Jeff Coyle, co-founder of MarketMuse, and Camden Gaspar, content marketing manager at MarketMuse, our newest Superpath partner. Jeff and Cam, thanks so much for being here. It'd be great if the two of you could maybe just intro yourselves a little bit and then give us like the 30,000 foot view of MarketMuse also.
Yeah, sure. I'm Jeff Coyle. Like you said, I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer for MarketMuse. And we are the content intelligence platform that sets the standard for content quality. And why we say that is because we objectively measure quality and comprehensiveness for content at the page level. And then we bring that 30,000 foot up so that you can see that for your entire site, all the topics you care about, really looking to accelerate all the common workflows that writers, strategists, search engine optimization professionals, and demand gen experts follow when it's talking about content.
I'm Camden. I'm the content marketing manager at MarketMuse. Started out about my first 2 years at MarketMuse working closely with our clients, help them get the most out of our platform, help them with their content strategy and planning. I moved over to the marketing team to bring some of that knowledge of our audience and our products to our marketing team. So now I work on, explaining our product, showing people workflows, and also pulling back and talking about content just at a high level as well.
Nice. I love it. Thank you guys. So for folks watching, we're going to go through MarketMuse. We're going to see what it looks like, how it works, what it does, how it can help you today. And we'll do that kind of in the context of workflows that you're probably already doing that are not as good as they could be. And so to start, there's a feature, as Cam gave me a quick tour when we last talked, and he was explaining to me the personalized difficulty feature, which I thought might be an interesting place to dive in. I think that's a very interesting take on keyword difficulty, which is a concept we're all familiar with. But it'd be great if Jeff, if you're up for sharing your screen and showing us personalized difficulty, and then maybe talking about using that feature to find great content opportunities.
Yeah, sure. So I'll walk through kind of why it exists really quick, and then I'll share my screen, show you a few things about kind of how it came to be. I think it's always good to get the context of what we're trying to do. So, at MarketMuse, and, like Camden mentioned, he's been doing this for a lot of years. I've fortunately or unfortunately been doing this about 22 years, from content strategy, all, lead gen, search engine optimization, every part of it, whether it's A/B multivariate testing, paid social, And the one thing that always really befuddled me was the way that people were thinking about difficulty. And even as it's evolved over the years, there hasn't been a real great way of evaluating, how much authority one has on a particular topic, or evaluating one's own coverage. So all the standards over time, went from, kind of the least correlative, which would be, paid competition, right? All the way to, trying to do some sort of cohort correlation with backlink data, right? And then anything in between that somebody can plop in there to hope that it drives more correlations. But what we've seen, and we've tested these things at scale and reverse engineered all of the difficulty metrics that have been out there, is that they're not any more predictive than guessing, frankly. I mean, there's situations where, you go through and how predictive was this? And it really didn't get there. And, very few situations where we've seen there actually are predictive. And what we've come out with, we influence our difficulty metrics with some of those metrics, but a great percentage of the information we're trying to enable somebody to have is when I cover a particular topic, how much coverage do I do? How in-depth is it? How comprehensive is it when I cover it? How much momentum do I create on that topic and the topics around that topic? And then we'll also use competitive dynamics and off-page factors to round out the assessment. And what it gives us is effectively our topic authority. So we say, how much strength, how much authoritativeness do we have on a particular topic? And how much, again, competitive advantage does that give us? And then it's the holy grail, right? It's how difficult is this generally? So just for anyone, how hard would this be? But what I want to know is, and the most actionable insight I can glean is, how hard will it be for me to perform well? Yeah. How much confidence can I have? And how predictive is that metric? With the follow-up being, how much work do I got to do? Right. Yeah. And so we bring that all together in 3 metrics, basically our difficulty metric, then our competitive advantage or topic authority metric, and then that personalized difficulty. And I always like to think of, that's where you land. You land on the personalized difficulty. The degree of authority you have is how predictive the number is. And then that gives you a sense of how much work you need to do. So let me show you an example right here. And I'm going to use I would love to use the SuperPath data, but I'm going to use the MarketMuse data.
Okay. I was going to say our site, I would imagine the personalized difficulty is going to be pretty high because the site is relatively new. It makes me think of there's been situations in my own career where I've worked on sites that are very well established. I worked on the QuickBooks blog for a while.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
And we didn't use MarketMuse. We should have, because we would look at keyword difficulty and all the keywords we're chasing are incredibly, incredibly difficult to rank for, but they actually weren't that difficult for QuickBooks. For us. Yeah. And, and then there's other times in my career where it's the site is 6 months old. We're really just getting going. A whole different ballgame, especially if you're going to try to rank for a keyword about accounting or something that QuickBooks would also be competing for. You really have your work cut out for you.
Yeah, and it's about also setting the right expectations for your team about how much work you need to do.
Yeah.
But you might have somebody might come you might be at QuickBooks and someone said, hey, we should own Shiba Inu dogs, and you're like, whoa, wait, we have a lot of authority, but it's not on that topic. So when you go look at an off-page factor-based keyword difficulty, you might go, we're a 92, so the top 10. We should own this because the top 10 zone, the highest backlink ratio is 82, and they have a domain. They have 95 total amount of links from 14 routes, and we have 10,000 because we're QuickBooks. So why can't we go write an article about this dog breed? Because we don't have any authority on that topic.
Yeah.
Authoritativeness is done at the topic site section level when it's evaluated. It's not even done at the site level. So doing it at the topic, at the domain level is also very correlative. So what we like to do is combine all of this information into one metric. And so what I'm going to do is I'll show you we have 3 views in our platform, and I'm going to share my screen, but you have it disabled. So
sorry, I should have done that earlier. Okay, you're good now.
Okay, cool. And so what we have is we have a view called our inventory, and it's an on-demand content inventory. And I have this filtered by content brief. So I'm actually looking at only the topics out of the 5,200 that I've evaluated in my inventory. And by the way, we have people with millions of topics in their inventories and hundreds of thousands and millions of pages evaluated. But with MarketMuse, you have an on-demand content audit, an on-demand topic analysis platform, topic inventory, and you're also able to take actions and build plans out of these. So when you find an insight, I can quickly grab it and throw it into a plan to then be able to build content briefs, as I'll show you. And what I wanted to show real quick is kind of a filtered view of all the topics that I'm monitoring inside my MarketMuse account that contain the word content brief. What I see here is I see my current ranking for this topic. I see my pay-per-click replacement value based on estimated traffic. If I had to go buy that traffic, how much would that cost? What page is performing? Then I start to see the metrics that we're kind of talking about. We've got commodity metrics, which, I can get into topic volume and seasonality. That's really that search volume commodity data. But what you also have is the proprietary data, which is the topic authority. MarketMuse owns content briefs. I mean, we were the first people to build them with technology, and we continue to innovate in the space. So we have a lot of authority on these. So now when I'm looking at various top keyword variants or topic variants, like I'm looking at here, you start to see areas where we have a tremendous competitive advantage, right? These are things where we have a really strong foothold, but maybe we don't have a page that's right on the money for intent. So we have an overwhelming competitive advantage, but our page is very generic. What is a content brief? It's not talking about templates and examples. It's not talking about samples. It's not talking about social media briefs, right? So what are 3 things I just realized that I need to do to expand my cluster on this topic? I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. And now I want to walk through and see exactly how much of a competitive advantage and where I land with personalized difficulty. So MarketMuse is telling me that the difficulty for these metrics, for these terms generally, so this is for anyone, are here. And so what this is telling me, and I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. So social media, when you add that to the content brief and templates, it's making the overall competition and the pool of people that I'm competing with quite hard. The content quality that they're building, the comprehensiveness is very high. All the way down to just content brief, et cetera, those aren't as difficult, but we also own it. So the wider this band, the more predictive this metric.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And so that's it. And here's the reason why. If this was a thin band, it would mean we have no existing authority, right? So how much real guess? It's more of a guess of where I land, right? It was simpler first. So if I land on the personalized difficulty of 19 and the regular difficulty is 19, I'm not adding anything. I'm just rolling the dice that I'm going to have influence enough to do well there, right? But when I have that authority, I'm actually driving competitive advantage and predictability. So in this case, how to write a content brief, MarketMuse says this is pretty difficult. I'm going to have to write a small cluster of content in order to attack it. We own it, right? We have actually the highest volume of advantage that we possibly can, and we own this. So we have the entire kind of pool. And as we'd guess, we are ranking really well. So what we need to do is get on the nose of how to write a content brief, and we will have an easy time being successful with that if we get on the nose for intent. Look at these other things, right? Like we already noted, we don't have direct intent coverage. And where I landed here, I have a significant advantage and a 23. So what that's telling me here, and we have these bands labeled out for our clients, that's telling me I need to probably write an article that's right on the nose for intent and probably update the articles in my cluster that are relevant to make sure that they cover this topic. All right.
And I was going to ask you that, like, how do you?
Small amount of work. And when it's really small, I could probably just modify this existing page to have a section on that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Like, is there a way to know, like, I really need a new page just for this thing versus can I add it or could I refresh an existing article?
And that's where I land, right? That's the personalized. And now here, I don't have a lot. I've got an advantage because of the associated related topics related to briefs and how much advantage we have on briefs. However, I don't have, it's not telling me this is going to be an easy win. This is telling me I need to update this page to cover that social media briefs is a thing. I need to cover templates. And then I also need to build a collection of content that tells the story that I'm the expert. So there's some more research needed here on social media briefs and proposals and all that type of stuff. And I'm going to have to build a package on it. But I do have a competitive advantage. So I know that if I do that, it's a predictable win. What's that allow me to do? It allows me to justify my investment and set expectations properly for how much content I need to build. Let's say this said I had no advantage and it was a 71, right? It's a crapshoot. That's a big, huge investment. It's an entire section of my site I'm going to probably have to build, right? And it's going to be a little bit of a less predictive thing. And so we work with clients to go through these and set standards and set workflows to say, when you see this, how much content do you build? How many motions do you take? Do you just update the page if you're not ranking really well? Do you create something new? Because this isn't necessarily going to be, connected to the intent of your pages or the existing rankings. But one cool thing you can do is build filters. I just expanded this to the entire inventory, by the way. You can build a filter that says, personalized difficulty is less than, let's look for these really easy ones, right? Like we were talking about. And I'm not ranking very well. Um, let's just say 6, right? And I can save this and make it my quick wins. And I can even tune that by any word. So I'm looking at all of MarketMuse's quick wins effectively. AI generated content, AI content generated content quantity, right? These are places where I've landed and I have an advantage content planning solution. So these are ones that MarketMuse is telling me that if I cover really well, we have room to grow because we're not in that dominant top position, but we have a huge outsized topic authority advantage. So this is giving me everything I would need. Content clusters, for example, we dominate. We have a great awareness phase content on what is a topic cluster. We do really well for a number of things, but we've probably degraded because it's a very competitive space. There's a lot of people writing on this. So we need to step up our game and build out build out a couple pages that focus more on, kind of comprehensively covering this topic and update this page, making sure that it's on today's intent. It probably hasn't been updated in quite some time. I don't know, Cam, how long has that page been updated? Cool thing about this is it gives kind of directed insight on what we should do, how much work we need to do. Get you speaking the same language with your strategist and your writers too. They have a reason to do the work, and they know that if they do it, they're going to be confident when they execute on it. And I was talking about one the other day, actually with Camden and Steven, and it was that content brief template example. I said, we don't have comprehensive content briefs examples, all the different types of examples, right? We own content brief. What is a content brief? But we don't have a list of examples and templates. So that's something that they're actually building right now. They're going to put out a collection of the different types of templates and examples. And so MarketMuse surfaced that opportunity and also said, if we do that, we're going to own it. I mean, nothing's better than that, than having cool. That predictive lens. And it works for everybody. You could also show you those, like, I call them kind of outsized wins or lucky breaks, right? Where you wrote an article on something, maybe it was on the edge, you didn't really know, and it did well. It punched above its weight. You can see how to go around that and continue to, fortify that infrastructure. Great example that you can see here is how to get a knowledge panel. We wrote a really great article about the right rail knowledge panel and did really, really well. Gave us a huge amount of authority in that particular zone. And so we've built plans that actually build infrastructure and support around that page, basically doing the cluster after the fact. So if you had an article just do really well, it was a dominator, you can actually build a cluster backwards to support it. So they say it's a hand without an arm, right? Or it's a tooth without a jaw. You have those teeth hanging out there. You got hands hanging out there. You can actually build the arm after the fact. And this type of data point get you there way quicker than just looking at off-page metrics.
That's interesting. I can't even tell you the number of sites I've come across where they have a piece like this, like a whale. That's what I would call it. Mm-hmm. It's like way out there. And those articles can be very problematic because they do tend to decay over time because they're very competitive. Yes. And probably no one really expected it to do so well, like you said. So they don't go build that infrastructure. So then what happens is that page starts getting less and less traffic. And it ends up, in some cases, if it's doing well enough, it makes it look like the entire site is going in the wrong direction, even if the rest of the site actually is doing just fine.
Yeah. It's the myth of content decay. It can often, so there's actually like people that do correlative content decay calculations, right? Fine. Go do your correlative content decay metric. What you really should be looking at is how much authority you have on the topics when you covered it. And every time you try to hit that topic and related topics, did you write a great piece? A lot of times people will do landing pages around it, content upgrades. You've seen this strategy. Come on. So you got this big old piece. It's 90% of your traffic. First of all, huge traffic, huge risk to your business.
Yes.
And instead of fortifying it and building like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? You got to do content bridging. You got to build on those middle topics, right? The middling topics. You end up like putting content upgrades in there, trying to get leads. Totally, I get it, right? Well, then those landing pages actually degrade your site because it's just a low page, and you haven't actually built the infrastructure that tells the story that you're the expert. The goal of all of this is to tell the story that you're the expert. You know the reader, you know the buyer personas, you know the prospect, whether they're in early stage awareness, consideration, purchase, post-purchase troubleshooting, or even champion development. They're somewhere there, and you've got coverage for that whole journey. And when you just go write one random, I have so many examples of these that I don't want to say, but I got one funny one though. I have a translation company, right? They had and I'm walking through the other ways that you can dive into these topics, by the way, just so that people can have a visual aid. But I'll tell you this funny story. I had the translation company, and they 90% of their traffic was going to a page that showed how to swear in various foreign languages. And I was like, oh boy, you're in deep trouble. Do you know why? They're like, yeah, nobody likes to look at this page. I said, that's not why you're in trouble. You're in trouble because, you actually haven't built any authority and you've been trying to generate leads with this thing. So you built infrastructure around it. It's just not going to happen. And so what other things we use to calculate a topic's value is we try to assess intent. So we try to look at Google's favored intent and associate whether it is explicit. So all the pages that Google favors are on one stage of the buy cycle, or they're answering one type of question, or is it fractured? So in this case, for content brief, some of Google's results are very awareness phase, but they're extensive coverage. Some of them are very simple. This is what a content brief is, right? So you get a mixture of that, but it's not anything other than that. It's not spread across anything but the awareness phase. So if you're covering this, you have to cover the entire buyer journey in order to be awarded with the ability to rank for the awareness phase. But the awareness phase pages are the ones that are probably going to gain that ranking. This is a common misconception in difficulty, is you look at the search result and you say, I am going to rank by writing that page that fits intent and that page only. It doesn't work that way. You have to write the entire breadth of coverage that covers the buy cycle in order to get that definition, in this case, to perform. Who's to say that you should be able to write a definition and have it rank, right?
Right.
You don't have the rest of that buy cycle covered, the rest of the journey covered, no chance of getting the definition to rank. And that's where people make critical errors in understanding intent and difficulty. I used to run the largest definition site on the web for B2B. And the only way we were able to get definitions to do really well was by having the other parts of the buy cycle covered. And that's really, really special consideration. They're never going to rank for that. Those other pages aren't, but it gives you that pass to the party, the power, right? So that your definition can rank, or so that your guide can rank. A lot of people think that it's just the guide they should write. And so that often comes into play.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So this is a kind of fun little breakdown. We also show like what features are on the search result, how the competition's average coverage level. And yeah, we even break down into some of the other elements, which I'll show a little bit later. But yeah, this is a good starting point.
Yeah, I love it. There's two things come to mind just hearing you talk about this and seeing it in action. Like, one is just the obvious content strategy benefits. Like so much easier to build a good long-term plan when you have data like this to help you make decisions. I especially love like just the low hanging fruit aspect, like to just be able to go in and just see like a number of keywords that you're like kind of quote in position for, and then figure out how easy or difficult it's going to be for you to rank for them. Is just like, I could imagine a team spending a couple weeks on that and growing traffic really significantly.
Oh yeah.
And one of the other reasons I like this, which is probably not like, it's probably not the type of thing that you guys would go out and market, but like I'm imagining the content manager building their plans, this is the tool they're using. And then this comes up a lot in our Slack community. People say, well, my manager came to me and said they had this brilliant idea last night and they want me to do this other thing, which is not part of the plan I put together. How do I explain to them that this is not actually the right thing to do? Like, this is how you could do that. You say, here's our data. Like our plan is here. It's based on this data. Like, this is what we could roughly expect if we do this work and versus what a lot of folks do is they end up just going and doing what the managers ask them to do.
Doing it.
Yeah, it takes them off track. So this is like the kind of thing that, anything that keeps a team on track, I think is so valuable. Like most content strategies fail more from lack of patience than anything else, So I love that this like makes it very easy to kind of handle that planning from like a long-term perspective.
I mean, you're so on the nose. I like to break down content plans. The most of them fit into 4 groups. It's quick wins. What can I do today that's going to have the most meaningful impact on my business? It can be a creation motion. It could be an enhancement, optimization, or expansion motion. You also have goals. I want to own this topic. I want to grow this KPI. You also have risks. I want to support that whale. right? Because that's a big part of my business. Or maybe I have a competitor that's just started publishing and they're getting really tough. Maybe Jimmy launches Superpath and oh gosh, he's coming for me, right? And something happens where something's changed and I don't know why. It could be an algorithm update as well, or a filter of some sort. The other one though is what you said. I'm just an organization, right? I take orders. I have not been able to surgically strike with my content because my editorial calendar is fixed. I don't decide it. So what we do in those cases is we make the case that team needs to put their best foot forward every time they hit publish. And they also need to report back, predict back and say, hey, we didn't decide to do this. Here's what we expect to get out of that. It's not going to be a win. It's going to be something where we would have had to have built a 5 to 10 page cluster. You've asked us to do one page. That's all you've budgeted for. We're not going to get a huge benefit. I would like to put together this entire cluster on this. Here's those other topics, right? So they say, no, you go out, put out one. It's not a huge win. You say, okay, next time I ask for budget here, I know. And then the other time they ask you to do something. Hey, this is going to be a big win. Let's go write it. We put our best foot forward again. We still publish a great article and then it wins. Now, the next time they ask for budget, they get the budget.
Yeah, that's cool.
And we see that happen over and over again. Big pharma companies, big life sciences companies, ball bearings company that we work with large companies, and they're like, nobody's giving them the budget they're asking for. But then once they put points on the board and had actually predicted it, the game's over, right? And then they're like, oh wow, we should listen to Cam, right? We should definitely be put money in here. And when you're able to look at a page also and see the ranking topics, you can see this in a commodity, a search engine optimization platform. But when you can associate that with intent mismatches, or, oh gosh, this is my most powerful page that I'm not on the nose. I don't have a template in here. That's when you start really taking, oh wow, I'm getting people to this page and then they're not happy. They're reading it. It's a great page, right? But it doesn't answer this specific user intent. And what do I got to do? I got to update it, provide a link to a new page that also then provides the right intent. When you start thinking about the next 5 questions that users want to answer, or what intents would then service people who are actually coming to the page already, and report that up, and people are like, oh yeah, right, we want to keep our prospects happy, we want to keep our customers happy, and that's when like the lights start flickering less inside that type of organization, right? But no, that's a great observation. And like I wanted to also show that we also give a page level inventory so we can hop in and see exactly how powerful each page is, all the topics that are related. This was another example of a whale for us. We randomly wrote an article about dealing with Amazon's rate cut a few years ago. It just outperformed, and we were able to support that. So, you should always be taking shots and listening to your CEO, right? When it comes into play, right? But it's about put a great article out there, and I can show you why we ensure that and make it differentiated. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then you have the best chance of punching above your weight.
That's really cool. Really cool. Yep. Okay, there you have it. Pretty cool, right? So if you want to give MarketMuse a try for yourself, you can use the code SUPERPATH20 at checkout. That'll get you 20% off. Thanks again to the good folks over at MarketMuse for their support. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and take care.